Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast. My name is Eric Thomas. I am the host of this show. Before we get going, I wanted to do yet again another reminder to everyone about some upcoming events that we will be attending. We're going to be at Service World Expo from September 21st through the 24th. It's coming up in just a few weeks. And then additionally, we will be at the ACA Fall meetings down in New Orleans from November 1st through the 4th. So we're excited. We'll be there recording some live podcasts just like this. So if you would like to record a podcast with me, get in touch with me. My email is eric@rivaldigital.com. You can just shoot me a message and we can get something lined up so that we can record a cool podcast live at the event and just chat about what you're learning at the event, some of the takeaways you're seeing at the event, and all that good jazz. So without further ado, for this episode, we are joined by Lawrence Castillo from Brody Pennell. Lawrence, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Eric. Good to see you, and excited to talk to you today.
Absolutely. So, Lawrence, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to all of our listeners out there and tell them about your experience in the industry, your history in the industry, and then kind of what your role is looking like nowadays over at Brody Pennell.
Sure. I'm a West Coast guy. I know that you're on the other side of the country, so some of your listeners might not be familiar with my background, but I've been in this for 25 years, and as an operator, and I started with a small company, with 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 employees, and we had some success with that and grew it and ended up selling it. And my career it seems that the opportunities got bigger and the companies got bigger as time went on. And so I spent most of my career running large heating and air conditioning companies here on the West Coast. And by large, I'm talking about a couple of hundred trucks and, shops with 300 employee kind of size. And because of that exposure, I think I saw a lot of great, smart stuff. I worked with a lot of really talented individuals, amazing sales teams, great managers, and saw some really smart processes. And so because of that, I've just got, all of this stuff that I've seen that and that hopefully I've been impactful and had a hand in the success that the companies that I ran that they had. So it's been great. This industry has been fantastic to me. I just never thought 25 years ago that I would have ended up in the trades, and so all these years later, I'm thankful and grateful for all the great people that I've had a chance to work with. But I've seen some great stuff, and hopefully today we can share some of it with your listeners. I think here on the West Coast, I ran a very large, the largest residential company in Canada. And if you have Canadian listeners, Milani is the company in Vancouver, and much different than running companies here in Southern California. So my entire body of work has been Southern California and then British Columbia. So for the listeners who do know the companies on the West Coast, I was the general manager of Service Champions, and I was also spent some time in the 1 Hour family. So a lot of exposure to the stuff that came from Contractor Success Group and Airtime 500, and all of that stuff was really impactful and has helped me to be successful, over the course of my career.
Yeah. I know we do have some Canadian listeners. We've actually had 3 guests now from Canada, which is always fun to learn about just the area up there and how business works up there. And so that's really cool that you've got that kind of experience up in Canada, and then also on the West Coast. And you're on the West Coast and we're on the East Coast, so it's probably like 3 a.m. there right now.
Yeah, we sleep at different times than you guys do.
That's fine. So yeah, I'd love to just go ahead and dive into some of this and just really kind of dissect a little bit of your experience and some of those processes that you were mentioning, because like we were saying before we got started, a lot of the contractors that listen to this show, they've there's a really a wide variance of size, but in particular, I'd say the average listener here is between 1 to 5 or maybe 7 employee type shops. There are some of the outliers that are listening that they do 20, 30 million a year. But it's far more common for us to hear from smaller contractors that listen to this who are listening because they want to implement certain strategies or techniques into their business to take it to the next level. So what was some of the experience and what was some of those processes that you saw starting off with the smaller contractors, and how did you take those smaller experiences to like help grow them?
My first experience in this industry, I walked into a shop that the gentleman that owned it, he had signed on and become a part of Airtime. And, Airtime provided a blueprint for success for so many contractors, but I really, that was my first shot. So I really used that as a path. And, it told you how to run a profitable heating and air conditioning company and how much you should spend on marketing and what your labor percentages should be and all of that stuff, right? How to hold comfort advisors accountable. All of that stuff was a part of that blueprint. And I think a lot of really successful contractors have used that same blueprint. And it doesn't matter if you're 50 or 60 million, that stuff is still a part of what you do every day. You learned it and you continue to apply it. But I think that for me, very simply put, my first opportunity, it was all the stuff from Airtime. And my next opportunity was actually working for 1 Hour Heating and Air. And I was the general manager here in Los Angeles. And, what a fantastic opportunity. And I was able to meet lots of really smart and successful people and who had really applied all of that stuff to their businesses. And they've all gone on to great success. But, and you learn that stuff and then you sort of refine it, and you try to make it your own and carry it on. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that stuff was really, instrumental in the successes that I've had.
Yeah. So do you find that there's value in investing in a franchise?
I think that I don't think you have to do that. I think if, and there are a lot of people who just haven't had the exposure. There might be a guy whose dad was, has had his own shop for 20 years and, he's the next generation and, he's the generation that was just turning a wrench and maybe he just doesn't understand it from a business perspective, but maybe they've stumbled upon some success and that seems like the recipe for them, right? To spend that money and to put somebody else's logo on the side of the truck and to go that route. That's fine. I think that there are many other, there's so much information out there. There's the best practices group, like I spoke about with Airtime, and of course Nexstar. So many successful Nexstar, companies out there. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that you necessarily have to, go that route. I think you can do it on your own as long as you have exposure to all of that stuff and talk to the right people who are able to, help you to grow your business.
Yeah. So when it comes to growing the business, what is some of the blueprint that you guys have followed or some of the advice that you would give in regards to growing a business?
Sure. Something that always stuck out for me from the success group days is Jim Abrams always said that 33% of management excellence is recruiting. And as a general manager, you're supposed to spend that amount of your time on recruiting. And I think, any of the contractors who are listening to this now, I can assure you that many and most of them are not spending a third of their time on recruiting. And, and then they wake up every day and they would like to be a bigger business and that's the plan, but you really have to have something in place. Right. Mm-hmm. And, So some people can grow through acquisition. Some people grow from raising their prices. Some people grow from, there are a lot of ways to get it done. But for me, it's always been through a hiring plan, right? And I'm not talking about a hiring plan, meaning that, you're putting an ad on Indeed. That's not a growth plan. A growth plan is deciding, hey, you know what? We have all kinds of needs in the business, and some of the people that are working for us right now aren't the right fit. And we have to constantly be shopping and constantly be talking to people, right? Because you never know when that one person's going to stumble through the door that makes sense for you for whatever position it is. So, if you're a small contractor out there, you put an ad up that says we're hiring for all positions, right? And come on into our shop next Wednesday. And, in the past, with some of the bigger shops, we would have 50, 60, 80 people show up, people of all ages, and they would all sit there, and we'd talk a little bit about the company and explain, this is who we are. We're looking for good people. And we give them all a couple of minutes to say, hey, I'm Bobby. I work at Best Buy. I'm just looking for a better opportunity. And, as managers, we would all listen to each of those 50 or 60 people, and we'd say, those 2 or 3 people, they're great. And we'd invite those 2 people back, and through each of those exercises, you can come up with a training class, right? And the bigger shops do this, right? They do this, and they do it regularly. And all of a sudden they've got a training class of 20 or 30 or 40 technicians, the ones who have built a training school, and they have a 10 or a 12-week program that they put technicians through, and, well-written programs with ride-alongs and, training rooms and all of that stuff. So, but for the small guy, it's got to start somewhere, right? And it can't only and strictly be an ad on Indeed, or, you have to, like I said with Mr. Abrams, you have to always be recruiting. So if you have 7 people, guess what? And you want to be 10 people, run ads, have people come into the shop, have people come in. And, that's one step, right? Is just to constantly be talking to people. But then once you are able to identify some folks that make sense, some of them are not going to be from our industry, right? Some of these people are just going to be bright-minded individuals with outstanding personalities that you would like to somehow put behind the wheel of a truck. Yeah. So then it becomes, how do I make that happen? I've got 7 people working for me, and I can barely get done the things that I need to get done, but these are excuses, right? Other contractors have done it, and they've done it to a high degree of success. So if you're serious about building your business, there's a way to get it done. And, for me, and this is my experience, service calls and sales appointments in our industry, 80% of it is theater. And, some of the contractors that are listening to this right now might not like hearing that, but it's very true. I come from companies where we hired people for personality, and we knew that we could teach them the technical part of it, right? We weren't looking for anybody who had been a technician for 15 years and was an expert wrench turner, because in many cases, those people, their communication skills weren't what we wanted. We wanted folks that our customers wanted in their house and that they would respond to. Because if you can go in and give your customer an outstanding customer service experience, where you put down your, the mat and the shoe covers and the whole thing, and they're just dressed impeccably, and the van is clean, and your service technician starts off by saying, I'm going to be giving you a 5-star experience today. And at the end of this call, I'm going to ask you if I delivered on that. And if so, I'm hoping that you're going to go ahead and go online and say a few things about what you had here in your house today. And we want them to get the customer involved in the call and touch them every 10 minutes. But that happens with people with great personalities. I don't know what you know about Enterprise Rent-A-Car, but Enterprise Rent-A-Car is the #1 rent-a-car company in America. And their recruiting plan they decided a number of years ago to recruit college athletes and Greek leaders from colleges, right? Fraternities and sororities. And they decided to do that because those folks are used to a competitive and aggressive atmosphere, right? In order to be a Greek leader in a college, you've had to go through all kinds of stuff. In order to be on an athletic team at a Division I school, you have to have applied yourself and just discipline and work ethic and all that stuff. So enterprise, that's what they decided to do. And when you go into an enterprise location, it's a little different experience than some of these others. And that's worked for them. That's a great recipe for success. And I think that, you can point to a number of different businesses and just, you can tell that their hiring process is different because of the quality of the people that they have in place, right? Yeah. And we all know those businesses. So I think that, for my companies, it always started there. We were just looking for great communicators who were presentable, who we knew that our customers wanted in the house, because if they want them in the house and they're enjoying the interaction, they're going to buy service agreements. They're going to buy add-on sales. They're going to want to be in business with our company for years. And that's all we were trying to achieve. So, the service call, the sales lead, it's 80% theater, and you want somebody who can excel at that role. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it conveys a message of trust, and when your technicians show up and they're neat, and they wave when they get out of the car and they put down the mat, and they're very polite and all that good stuff. So, and that requires no skill. I mean, you don't have to have any technical expertise to be a nice person and show up with a smile on your face and say, "Hey, Mrs. Johnson, I'm here to help you, and you're going to receive an experience like no other, and I can't wait to hear what your feedback is." He hasn't even looked at the system yet. He hasn't even pulled out a single tool. All he's done is just been nice. And like they say, a first impression is a lasting impression. If that's the first impression you leave with the customer, and then the customer they're going to leave you alone usually. Sometimes they don't. But usually they'll kind of go off and do their own thing. And their impression the whole time was, that guy was so nice. He was such a good technician. They already think that he's a good technician, even though he hasn't done anything yet.
It's true. It's, perception is reality for everybody. And if you look at the companies, at least in the Western part of the United States, that are really, really successful, there are a few common denominators, right? And that's one of them, is just the quality of individual and the show that they put on in the house. It's, from company to company, everybody's sort of doing the same thing, right? It's, you just have really high caliber people who are showing up on time, and they're showing up in a clean van and a good looking uniform, and they're rehearsed, right? There's no fumbling and bumbling when they get to the door. They know exactly what it's going to be, right? They know how to run the call because they've been trained the right way. So that's a huge difference when you take a look at the big successful companies out here.
Yeah. So a question we just got was essentially from Zach Miller. Pretty much standard operating procedures for the technician when entering the home with during the big COVID protocols. And I assume that they probably are continuing to carry over into right now as well. So what were some of the things that you all had your technicians do during this change in climate?
Well, it's really been all over the board now. And currently, and I'll tell you what, here in Los Angeles, at least for my company, and I would say that the client, this is a 76-year-old company, right? And we have many, many customers that have been with us for many, many years, right? And so the average age of our customers might be a little older than some other companies. So we have many requests for fully vaccinated technicians only, right? Mm-hmm. And, we're honoring these requests, and our guys know that, we're sanitizing tools between jobs. Everyone is masked. everyone, the guys all have face shields if it makes the customer more comfortable. And I think that people have gotten a little more comfortable with this as the new norm. And, a year ago, nobody wanted to be within, a dozen feet of each other. And now, I think we have a greater understanding about all this. But on a day-to-day basis, everyone is masked. We will only come into the house if the customer wants us to. We just, and I'm talking about if the system is in the garage or something. But we it's just, we're really respectful when it comes to their wishes, and our notes when the folks in the call center are taking, booking these calls, they're adding all of these notes so that the guys know what to expect when they're getting there. But I've instructed them to, put on a great show when it comes to, all of the protection that we go through in order to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing in the field to make our customers happy during this strange time. So
yeah. When I was getting my system replaced recently, the two installers, they were wearing their masks, and they were up in the attic, like, swapping out the furnace, and they were just like, they were sweating so heavy and breathing so heavy. I eventually was like, hey, you guys, like, you can take those off if you want. I'm gonna be in the other room. You guys don't have to sit here and suffocate yourself. Yeah. So I'm sure that's probably the case with a lot of homeowners. I'm sure that they appreciate it at first when you're, first interacting with them. But after a while, they probably are fine if you take the mask off.
We're here to make them happy, right? They've invited us into their home, so we're going to follow the rules that they've established, and we're just here to make them happy. And so we're thankful for the opportunities, but we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that it's a great experience for them. So, and some of our online reviews, I've noticed, I think that more often than not, the online reviews that we get mention this. So the guys, they're doing a great job of following protocol.
Nice. So kind of shifting back towards recruitment, you were saying, like, to make sure you have a good hiring plan and all that stuff. Do you believe in hiring ahead of growth, or like more of a proactive recruitment, or do you believe more in hiring once the demand for more employees is there?
It's a great question. Mr. Abrams always said, and I don't know, there are two books that I refer to constantly, and one of them is The Contractor's Guide for Success, which is Jim Abrams wrote that, and then HVAC Spells Wealth. I don't know if, you have some small contractors out there, and either of those books, I know that the Ron Smith one, HVAC Spells Wealth, that can add that to your library. It should be one of the most important books that you have in operating and growing your business. But as far as growing your business, I think that that training plan that I was alluding to, if you have it written, if you follow it, if you execute the way that some of these successful companies have done so, the sky's the limit. But it's really, you need to make friends in the industry, right? And I think that, and today with all of these groups on Facebook, and what's going on with podcasts and such, it gives you really a great chance to talk to other smart people who have had success, and we learn from each other. And I think that it's a great time to be in our industry, and I've never seen so much goodwill and so many people helping each other want to grow their businesses, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think that to implement some of these ideas and put some of these processes in place, you borrow it from people who have had success with it. But the only way to do that is to make friends, and whether it's going to, the Service World Expo, or whether it's joining Nexstar, or whether it's, connecting with just folks that you might not have normally connected with. This is the way to grow your business and to have success.
Yeah. I think Nexstar is an awesome network to be a part of. I had Julian on the podcast maybe a month and a half ago or so, maybe 2 months by now. It's time's flying, but um, that's a great episode. If you're listening to this and you just want to get a little taste about maybe what Nexstar has to offer you, I would recommend going back and checking out that episode because Julian has a really cool perspective on things, and Nexstar's it's a pretty cool little gig they got going on over there.
I think that guy's a special guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he came up through the industry, and his story's a great one. And as a leader, I mean, what a great natural leader, right? The stuff that he talks about, and he preaches and he practices it, right? And so I'm not a Nexstar member. I have been a Nexstar member before, but when you're an organization with a leader like that, man, it makes you want to run through a brick wall. And that's the kind of leader that all of us need to want to be too, right? Whether you got 10 employees or whether you have 100 employees, your employees are waiting for instruction from you. And in many instances, they're not going to take action or do anything until they do hear from you. So if you're the small business owner that wakes up every morning and just shows up every day and hopes that your fortunes are going to change, that doesn't happen, right? You have to meet with your folks and get involved and get a lot of smart people in the room and come up with plans and put them on paper and hold people accountable to take action, right? Otherwise, nothing's ever going to change. So,
absolutely. So you mentioned that hiring is it should be 33% of your efforts. So let's talk about the other 67%. Where do you think that time should be spent as an owner operator of a business?
Good question. For me, the numbers are really important, right? And this is the big business experience, showing through here. But when you're running a business where you've got, you're running a few hundred technicians and there's just a lot to keep track of. So it really starts with the numbers. You've organized your departments and they're categorized and what the KPIs are that you're going to measure. But getting those numbers every day are critical. The first thing that I do when I sit down at my desk every morning is, this is before I open my email, I turn on Service Titan, right? And because I want to take a look at everybody's performance. And then a couple hours after that, my management team comes up here and they all bring their numbers and they read their numbers aloud, and it gives us a chance for meaningful discussion. But just having familiarity with who is having success in your business every day and who isn't, that's a huge difference maker, because how do you know who we need to chat with about, putting a training plan in place for Johnny technician or Bobby technician? You can't do it without watching the numbers every day. And so much of my day is spent speaking with my managers about the people that need training. So yeah, as the 33% is recruiting, and the rest of that is, part of that is really being in tune with the numbers for your business. And then, you have to be, and once again, depending upon the size of your business, but a boots on the ground leader commands respect, right? And I do 5 meetings a week in the mornings with my service and sales people, right? From 7 to 8 a.m. I have 5 different groups of technicians and sales people that I do meetings with. And I do that. I mean, it would be easy for me to check out and just have my managers hold those meetings, but I still, 25 years later, I do those meetings. And I do those meetings because it's important to me. I want them to know that I'm invested. I'm invested in their success. I'm invested in knowing, that what's happening with them. But I provide, it's training. I talk to them about how I think, a successful call is run, or, how we should be pricing this or that out, or whatever, just any, variety of topics. But I think that's important to just be involved with your people. And so, yeah, here I do 5 meetings a week in the mornings and spend a lot of time working on the numbers and, do other things to try to make sure that the people that are working here are happy to work here. That's the other thing is we talk about recruiting, but employee retention is another key piece, right? Because we know how hard it is to find good people. And to find a good one and to lose a good one, it's so difficult to replace good folks. So you have to show appreciation. You have to do good things for your employees. You have to make them want to come to work every day. So I think that's important, the retention part of it. The really big companies that are successful at recruiting, they have people on staff, and that is their job. They're only doing recruiting, right?
Yeah.
And maybe if you're the small company and you got 5 or 6 or 10 people, maybe you enlist your wife to work on that piece of it if there's nobody in the office that is doing that currently. But it's about people. It's about having good people.
So what are some ways that you all go about finding technicians outside of Indeed and different job aggregators?
I think that your best recruiters are in uniform and behind a wheel for you already, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody that works for you, probably worked somewhere else at some time, right? And some of them have worked at multiple places. And guess what? They still have friends that they used to work with, and they're still friends with them on Instagram and Facebook. And you have to start with them, and you have to incentivize them to bring people through our business so that we can talk to them, right? So, if you got 20 or 30 technicians driving around today who, they don't even know it, but you have to incentivize them, right? Here's what you're going to get if you can bring somebody, a quality candidate to us. So you start there, right? That's the first place. That's the low hanging fruit, right? And once again, rather than just the Indeed ads, I just think to open it up and have a day every week where you're bringing people in. We're hiring for all positions. And this week you might not identify anybody. You may get 10 people in the door and none of them make sense. And next week you might get 4 people in the door and 2 of them make sense. And then, but you have to continually do that. It's just, the attrition that some of these companies face, just the replenishment part is you're just trying to keep up. And, but to grow the business, it just has to be a full scale effort. So, I would say start with your technicians and start with the people that work for you, your technicians and your salespeople, and even your office staff, right? They all have friends and they know good people. So So
I think that's one thing that 1 hour does really well, at least here in the Virginia Beach market. I notice they are constantly bringing people in for, just to meet them and interview them. And because the thing is, different people will be ready for it at different times. So if you just have a career fair or a big hiring party once every 4 months, you might not get the people that you might be looking for. But if you have it every other week or monthly, then more people will eventually fall into place.
And it sounds like they do a great job with that. The career fair is a great idea. It works. It works. And however you want to put those ads up, you can put one in the customer service department or advertise it as customer service, advertise one as sales and one as service, whatever, or just put one, test it out. That's just test it, put up good ads, start to get people in. If you find an ad that works, but man, that's the key. If you're a company that has maybe a couple of outside salespeople, you can get real creative, right? To find another, if you're trying to grow the sales department, you're looking for comfort advisors, right? Because in heating and air conditioning, we're not necessarily looking for folks that are selling heating and air conditioning for another company, right? We are looking for people who are selling solar and roofing and whatever, right? These are just, it all transfers. So
Yeah.
you have to really spend some time to put together some thoughtful ads.
Yeah. And that's like you were saying, with, the best recruiters you have are the people you already have working for you. And there's an old saying, birds of the same feather flock together. That's the first thing that came to mind when you said that. Cause like, even if the technician or the installer who's, an A+ player, upholds the company values, really exceeds all expectations, even if he doesn't know another service technician, I'm willing to bet that he knows someone who's like himself, who you can train through your training program to become a service technician. And so that's where it's really just so important to communicate to them too, like, hey, we want people just like you on our team, even if they're not, a master contractor or a, pro installer or whatever. We can teach them that, but we need like more people like you.
It's a great point. It's a great
Yeah.
point. And right now with, at least here in Los Angeles, there's a real labor issue, trying to find, and I've seen hiring bonuses on television ads for the casinos, and there are restaurants that are offering hiring bonuses, right? Everybody has the same problem. We're all looking for good people. But unless you have an audience with them, you're never going to, have a chance to grow the business. So,
Yeah.
but birds of a feather flocking together, it makes total sense. I remember some of those old recruiting classes that we would have, or the training classes. We would have, either there would be a sibling of a former employee or a current employee, or friends of the employees. It's just, yeah, it's got to, you got to. It's a huge effort to build your business, and you got to use all the, every channel available to you.
Yeah. So when it comes to, taking service calls, and like we were talking about earlier with, the repair calls that you can turn into a sale, what's the process look like on your end? What's some of that process that you helped roll out into Brody Pennell?
So, there's a couple of different business models out there. There's the selling technician model, and there's the comfort advisor model, right? And I've been a part of companies that have done both in the past. Here, my company we have comfort advisors, and my selling technicians turn leads, right? And I keep my marketing expenses down. I'm about 5% here. And the reason is that I don't really market for replacement leads. We create our own through our service base. And some of the smaller contractors might not understand that or know what that looks like, but every large successful company here on the West Coast, at least, does the same, right? You're running, let's say you're running 70 or 80 or 100 technicians, and those 70 or 80 or 100 technicians, they're each running, let's say they're running 3 calls a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're running a couple hundred calls a day there. And there you go. Your sales leads are contained within those 200 calls, right?
Yeah.
I don't need marketed leads if I train my technicians to run the call correctly, build all this value, give a great customer service experience, and at the end of that tune-up, regardless of what age the equipment is, if you've done a great job, you're either going to leave with a service agreement or a sales lead, right?
Yeah.
So that's what my guys do here. We go in, we run our tune-up, and they get the customer involved. We create urgency. Our job is to educate, right? And if somebody has 15-year-old equipment, and if I'm the service technician, I need to be able to give them their options, but I need to be well versed in explaining, what they stand to benefit from by replacing their equipment. And if they've done a good job with that, our sales department is going to be there later today, or maybe tomorrow, to go over options. So, and with a marketed lead, of course, if I'm sending out postcards or letters in the mail, um, this is your closing rate on those calls. You're going to be in the 30s, right? And on technician turned leads, you're in the 70s or the 80s, or somewhere in that neighborhood. So
absolutely.
it's a better business model to go and run a service call, do a great job of creating urgency, put somebody in the market on that day and take them off the market that same day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of running a marketed lead and, somebody gets your marketing and all of a sudden there's going to be, 6 bids and that whole thing. And on a tech turn lead, you're also going to be able to sell at a higher margin, just because you're not competing against anybody. You're going to go in there at your book price and that's all they know. But on a marketed lead, you're competing against, every Home Depot and Costco contractor that they're going to want to interview. So, creating leads from your own service base, it's the way to keep your marketing expenses down. And it's the way to keep customers, right? I mean, you've got a service customer who turns into a replacement customer, and now they turn into a service agreement customer, right? So this is the way to, to keep people in your database forever. And even if it's the one-off, even if they called you on a no cooling today, and you go out there and you end up replacing the system and, get them under a service agreement, you've just taken a stranger and made them a part of your family. So that recipe has been really the success for my companies for many, many years. I just don't market for replacement leads. I market for tune-ups.
Yeah. So. I mean, and it's such a simple concept, but if you told that to several, honestly, probably 90% of people that are out there, they would be mind blown. They'd be like, why wouldn't you advertise for replacements? That's where the money's at. But it's just, understanding consumer behavior. If my AC's broke, I'm not going to go on Google and type in HVAC replacement. I'm going to type in HVAC repair, and I want someone to fix it, because people don't go on Google and just say, all right, I'm going to blow 10 grand today and, get a system replaced. They want to try to get it fixed first. And also from a customer acquisition standpoint, that's so much cheaper too than going through someone like Home Advisor. I'll go ahead and just throw them under the bus. I mean, you're going to pay $150 for that lead, and that lead is price shopping. I mean, no doubt about it. The people that go on Home Advisor, they want price shopping, and that's why they go to Home Advisor, because they know they're going to get 6 or 7 contractors calling them for that replacement opportunity, and then it becomes a race to the bottom to see who can do it the cheapest.
That's exactly what it is. And it's and the person that ends up losing is the customer, right? Mm-hmm. If you go on social media these days, and any of us who are in the industry, the algorithms sort of figure out what the targeted ad should be. And all I get are targeted ads for, hey, do you need 3 to 5 replacement leads a week? It's all these companies under all these different names that are saying this. And to me, I'm like, no, I don't need it, because I create my own here. Yeah. So, you know what? As long as my service board is full every day, I'm good on sales leads. My guys, once again, that's training and accountability, and to spend time letting them know how to run the call right, how to build value, how to make a friend, how to create urgency, and how to turn that lead over to the sales department. And, that's really the recipe for success. I mean, if you were to sit here and ask me, what's the one piece of advice I can give, any size contractor, if you have a great process for that, and I've worked for companies that have had great processes for that, it translates to just great success. So we do it here every day, and I'd rather my salespeople be in a house where my service technician was earlier today than have them be in a house of somebody who has no idea who we are, and they're just calling because they got a letter that says that we're offering, 18 months, 0% financing.
Yeah.
So
do your technicians have like KPIs for turned leads?
No, here's the thing is that it's, for me, they know that they're going to go into that call, and if it's right, then they have the conversation. Our job is to educate. These folks don't know, right? You have 15-year-old equipment, and if you're facing, $2,600 in repairs, then you have to sit down and say, listen, let's talk about this, right? I'll repair it if you want me to repair it, but let's talk about your other options, because you might think that $2,600 is better spent toward, replacing the equipment. But then, you have to talk to them about energy consumption and inflation and the rising cost of materials, and what we're seeing with, the world is strange right now, right? A lot of people are facing equipment shortages, and there are just a lot of factors that are contributing to just a strange time. So there are no KPIs. I don't say to my service technicians, you need to turn 20 leads a month. That's dangerous, right? Because guess what? They're going to turn 20 leads a month, and half of them are going to be for the wrong reasons. You want your salespeople to walk into an opportunity that was created legitimately and in the customer's best interest, right? If somehow, some way, one of my salespeople ends up on at somebody's house who has 7-year-old equipment, man, we're ringing the bell over here, and I would just be, just sifting through the information to find out how something like that could possibly happen, because that's highly unusual, and on the surface, that's just completely unacceptable. So, no KPIs. Just go out there and do right by our customers, right? Because like I said, our customers, we're a 76-year-old company, and in this marketplace, that makes us the second oldest, and we're proud. There's a lot of heritage here, right? We're a Carrier dealer, and Carrier awards the President's trophy. They've done it 16, 17 years, and only 2 companies have won it every year in its existence, and this is one of those 2 companies, right? We have a lot to protect here. So our technicians, they go out and they do the right thing, and if they don't do the right thing, then I get on the phone and I make it right. So
dang, that's awesome. Well, I typically, towards the end of these things, ask one piece of advice that you would give to contractors of any size, but you've already given us that one. So let's ask, if someone wanted to take their business from 10 employees to 30 employees and beyond, what's something that they need to start doing right now in order to achieve that goal?
Recruiting, because if I have 3 install crews, and I know that they're going to install whatever, $125,000, $150,000, $175,000 a month, I know that I can't complete any additional revenue until I have another installation crew, right? But I can't hire an installation crew without having work for them, right? So I need to grow my service. I mean, it's all of it comes down to recruiting.
Yeah.
So for anybody of 5 employees, 50 employees, you have to have a written growth plan, and it's all about recruiting. And there are some people, today that they're not doing that. So let this be their wake-up call, that they need to, be talking to people all the time. I need people in a number of different departments here today. We're a growing company, right? I have plans to grow this company. You had asked a question earlier, and I just remembered I didn't finish it, so I'm gonna answer it right now. You had asked, do you recruit for your current size or for your growth? And Mr. Abrams always said you don't recruit with your growth in mind, right? You add people to your business when you see that you're stretched beyond your capacity, right? You don't hire 3 installation crews just knowing that you're going to get there. You don't do that, right? Once you see that your guys are running too many calls and that your demand has exceeded your capacity, that's when you add people to the business, but you need to know that's sustainable, right? You don't just add people in the summer and then, you're laying them off. There are a lot of contractors right now that they see it's the end of August and they know October's coming around and, oh man, I'm going to have a hard time, filling out these install crews. And I'm, worried about service calls coming in. And if you have a really good growth plan, that kind of stuff, it becomes that panic. It shouldn't be a part of your mentality, right? So anyway, that my greatest advice is just have a recruiting plan and put it down on paper and live it and breathe it, and make sure that you're bringing people into your building every week.
Nice. So on top of, this will be my last question. So with the growth plan, does that just account for recruitment, or is that all areas of business, marketing, operations, finance, all that stuff?
All areas of the business. I think that, every company should have an org chart, right? Mm-hmm. And if you have an org chart, that's a starting place. And you know that if you have 3 people in accounting, at what point do we add another body there, right? I mean, your growth will necessitate you to hire people in every department, right? So, and it's all just, everything touches, one department touches the next, right? At some point, your 3 or 4 CSRs isn't going to be enough, and you're going to need to add one in there, but when, right?
Yeah.
So, these are the questions that you have to ask yourself, but it really starts with what's on paper. Like I said, if you don't have an org chart on paper, you need to do that so that you can start to develop your growth plan. Where do we want to be in 3 years, right? Where do we want to be next year? How much did we grow this last 12 months, right? Did we add $1.5 million in revenue? And that $1.5 million, did it just push us to the brink with our current capacity? So, these are important things. And if you want to add a couple million next year, if you want to add 100,000 in revenue next year, it's got to be pencil to paper.
Yeah. I think the org chart's a really good thing to have too, because when you create the org chart, it will make you realize, or at least make you think, are these people in the right seats currently? Like if you're trying to grow and then you kind of just have this business and then you sit down and say, all right, I'm here, general managers here, office people are here, CSRs are here. Then you might start thinking, Sally, the CSR, or Tim, the CSR, or whoever, like they're really good at talking to people. Would they be a good salesperson? They might be, but they're not doing such a good job of CSR stuff because they don't like, dealing with complaining customers. But so it'll make you realize when you draw that out, like, are these people in the right places? Because if you don't have the right people in the right seats, you'll have a hard time growing in general.
It's so true. And what you just said about writing it out. I worked for Leland Smith and at Service Champions, everything is written down. And if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And those are the rules, right? And it doesn't matter, what we're talking about, but it's got to be on paper, right? Mm-hmm. And in that business, we had an org chart hanging in every office. Everybody needs to know who they work for, right? Everybody needs to know what the pecking order is, because everybody also has to have a path to success and to grow, right? And if you're on the bottom in your department, you need to know what you need to do to ascend and to maybe, at some point have your boss's job. So make it clear for people, put it down on paper, let them see it. Don't hide it, right? Be transparent. I have a friend in Fresno who has his org chart on the wall. And I have a friend in Vacaville that has the same thing. They put it like with stickers all over the wall so that everybody could see it. It's really cool. And, it's a nice thing for people to know, how the business is put together and shaped and where their opportunity is for growth and success, right? We do this so that everybody And we should be providing that for our employees, right? They might have aspirations to have our job, right? Or to be somewhere else in the organization where they think they might be a better fit. So it's a nice thing to have. But yes, everything needs to be on paper, and recruiting, growth plan, org chart, all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Lawrence, this has been a great episode. It's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think you've definitely brought a lot of value to the table.
I always like to share, what my knowledge with other contractors, right? I've been doing it a long time, and I have a bunch of people that reach out to me and text me and email me, and they say, hey, I've got this going on in my business. Is there anything that you can do to help, or any advice that you might give? And I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Well, Lawrence, I don't want to take up too much of your afternoon, or I guess probably still morning for you. So,
yeah.
So awesome. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you, Lawrence. We will be talking to you soon. For all the listeners out there, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Smart HVAC Marketing Podcast. I hope all of you stay safe out there and enjoy yourselves. And until next time, take care.